I'm not going to pay a rental property manager to manage my rental properties when I can do all of that myself, save the cost of hiring one, and make more profit for me at the end of the day. And that is exactly the type of mindset that most newer real estate investors will have when they first start out. So the question is, should you hire a professional property manager or should you self-manage? What are the pros and cons of each? So let me get into that. But first, let me welcome you to my channel. My name is LOR VANG. I'm a local investor as well as agent in the greater Milwaukee area market. And so the topic for today, of course, is should you actually pay a property manager or should you self-manage? And so there are pros and cons to each of these management styles. However, of course, depends on your goals. So in this video, I'm going to break it down for you so that you can decide for yourself, depending on where you're at, on which route you should take. So let's start off with, if you choose to self-manage, what are the pros? Well, one of the biggest ones is that if you like to have control of everything, well, you're the one managing it. So you can control how much rent to charge, you can control which tenant lives there, you can control the maintenance items that you want to do, the repairs, the upgrades, all those things are 100% in your control, as well as how you want to manage tenants, what rules you want to make. So those are your call. The next obvious benefit is that you will save on the cost of paying for a property manager. So now you're going to save potentially 8 to 12% of that monthly rental income. The third benefit is that you will build a more personal, better relationship, hopefully, with your tenant, because you're going to be the one directly communicating with them. So hopefully this could mean that your tenant treats your place a little bit better, or that they stay longer so then you have less turnover. And now into the cons of self-managing your own rental properties. And of course, the very first one that a lot of people might think of, how do I do this correctly? Where do I get the forms? How do I make sure my forms are legit and they will protect me? And then, there's the legal rules and regulations that you need to learn how to follow, as well as the financial questions, right? So like, how do I collect the rent? What's that process look like? Do I need to open up a separate bank account? Can I put in my personal account? How do I collect security deposit and application fees? So there's a lot of logistics that you have to think about because you're going to be the one in control. The second potential negative is the amount of time and energy that it might take for you to manage your rental properties. And so a lot of this will depend on how many units you have. It could be very overwhelming, especially if you have a full-time job and your rental investments are just your part-time gig. So you might spend a lot of time dealing with vacancies, turnovers, or other surprise issues. Other negatives of self-managing and taking all the control is that now you also take on all the risk, the stress, and the possible brain damage that comes along with it. So some of this might be dealing with emergency issues at the property. So what if a toilet floods? What if a sewer backup happens? What if a fire gets started? Or what if your tenant relationship goes bad? So they stop paying rent and now you gotta send them fees and fines and then eventually file for eviction, take them to court. So these are things that you will be responsible for dealing with because you're the one in control of everything. Okay. Maybe this whole self-managing rental properties isn't for me. Why don't you go ahead and explain the pros of hiring a professional property manager for me so I can make my decision? All right, I'm glad you asked. So of course, when you hire a property manager, their role is to handle the management side of things. So what does that mean exactly? Well, they're going to do the things like get your place ready for a tenant to move in. So any minor updates, turnovers of that unit to get it rent ready, they're going to handle. And then they're also going to handle the marketing so that they're going to blast these out to their sources so that they can find you a quality tenant. And of course, they're professional property managers, so they have more than likely a criteria, a good screening way to get you a good tenant. Whereas if you're just a newer landlord, good luck trying to screen tenants. You might just end up with the pick that becomes a nightmare. And so other things they do, of course, they help collect the rent. So they come up with a system that the tenant will pay and you can collect from there. They'll pay you out. And of course, The maintenance items, they will help with that as well. They'll find contractors, maybe they have handyman on their team. And then any major repairs, things of that nature, they might have other people who can help you with that as well. And then the bookkeeping. So they do a little bit of bookkeeping for you because they are collecting the rents, and they might be also paying utilities like water bills. So they help you out on that aspect as well. The second benefit, of course, is their expertise and their resources, because this is what they do for their day job. Whereas you're just kind of learning the ropes. You're doing it on the side possibly. Well, you have a lot to learn. A professional property manager will have the systems, the knowledge, the skills, the tools, and the network to manage efficiently and effectively to maximize your profits and minimize your expenses, as well as keep everything legal and avoid trouble. And as a result of hiring a property manager to help you with all these things and delegate these tasks, take them off your plate, what do you gain? Well, you gain time, energy, freedom, less stress, and less brain damage. So that's a win. So now if you have a W-2 job that is your main focus, you can work on that. If your main focus is to grow and scale your real estate investing portfolio, now you can spend your time doing that instead of worrying and spending all that time and energy just trying to manage one rental property. So instead of working inside the business, now you are working on the business to grow it, scale it, and have your property manager help you along the way. Okay, that does sound pretty good, but there's got to be a catch, right? What's the negatives here that I'm missing? Let me know. So yes, there are some negatives to hiring a property manager. You know, everything's not great. So when you hire a property manager, of course, you are delegating, you're offloading those management tasks. So one of the things is you may not like how a property manager runs the property. You will not have total control anymore because property managers have their own systems. They have the ways that they like to run their buildings and how they want to manage tenants. So you have to make sure that you choose a certain property manager that is maybe a little bit flexible or has a certain management style that you're looking for. Otherwise, it's probably not going to be a good relationship. And also, of course, you want to make sure that your property manager is a good communicator so that they are a good middleman. Communication from the tenant through them to you is good, you know, and it's fast. And so that your tenants are not upset with your property manager that is non-responsive, you don't hear anything, any issues that, you know, come up. And, you know, it's like a week, a month later, all of a sudden, now you hear about it from your tenant being pissed off that your property manager is dropping the ball. So, you know, there's that type of issue as well. Of course, the obvious drawback is the cost that it takes to hire a property manager, right? So we kind of already talked about this. Can be anywhere from, you know, 8 to 12%. But not only that, some property managers, you know, will also charge for placement fees. So placing a tenant, renewal fee for when they renew a tenant. So yeah, it's, you know, a lot of fees that they could potentially be adding on, as well as when they are handling maintenance repairs for you. When they go get a contractor quote, they're going to mark that up a little bit so that they make some money on that as well. So that's how it goes. Okay, so those are some of the negatives of hiring a property manager. Now, to finish out the video, I'm going to have some final closing notes. One of them is that just by simply hiring a property manager, it does not mean that you can be completely hands off, that your job is done. Now you kind of switch over into the supervisory asset manager role, where you are overlooking, making sure the property manager is doing their job, that they're responsive, they're communicative to you, the tenant, they're taking care of your place properly. So any maintenance issues that come up, they are on top of it. Then they're doing their job, they're putting the right people in there, people are collecting money still, paying their money, and that you are able to pay your mortgage. Because if you're not making any profit, and then you're going to be in trouble. Finding a good property manager is one of the most important team members on your investing team because they are your boots on the ground. They will be out there at your property more often than you will be. And so if you find a good one, make sure you treat them well, build that great relationship, and keep them long term. And lastly, as your rental investment portfolio begins to grow, you add more and more units, you will become overwhelmed. You can no longer operate everything as a one-man show. So you're going to need to start hiring a property manager or employees. So like a handyman, a lease person. So essentially, you are building your own property management company under yourself. And this might work out great. if you are, again, the type that must have absolute control over how your portfolio is ran. So that's it for this video. Hopefully with this information, you can decide what's right for you when you are starting with your rental portfolio, or even if you currently have one right now, and decide when you might need to implement that property manager to help you out. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, if you found value in it, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like, subscribe, and the bell icon if you've not yet, and I will see you in the next real estate related video.